Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm still figuring out a setting and a background that's going to be aesthetic for my videos, and I'm not quite sure I have nailed that yet, but work with me on it. As you guys have maybe seen in my description box on the past two videos of mine, I have been having a little bit of trouble with my camera and therefore am trying to reconfigure my lighting situation so that it adapts to the quality. So fingers crossed I will be getting a new camera soon. That is the plan because I do want to start making continuous content for you guys now that I have all the time. So that leads me into what today's topic is going to be, and it's how to build your personal brand. Many of us right now are kind of scattering like of this uncertainty. What are we going to do? And taking a step back, a lot of my outside work has been canceled. So all I have to focus on is my personal brand. It's my online presence. It's how I show up in my day-to-day life and how that transfers to how I show up also online. If you read books such as Crushing It by Gary Vee, he talks about how social media can take a mundane business that might not be growing that well to an astronomical growth, all because you figured out how to use social media, the platform the correct way, and also how you've connected your personality into that brand. Now, when defining a personal brand, it's essentially how people perceive you. And so the way you want to be perceived is as your ideal self. Who is this person? How do they dress? How do they speak? How do they sit? How do they interact with people? So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna talk about some tips on how to construct that ideal self and how to transfer it not only in your day-to-day life, but also in your online presence. So my first tip is pick one or two platforms. I know that if you are someone who is interested in branding or marketing, they say that you should be on every platform that is out there. I personally beg to disagree. The reason being is that I think it's so great to pick one or two platforms so you can really understand the ins and outs of how these platforms work. I just don't think it's realistic to say that you can create valuable content for 5 platforms a day. So that's why I decided to scale down. I decided to focus on my Instagram brand. I decided to focus on my YouTube brand. And I really want to know, how do these platforms run? How do the analytics work? What kind of behavior does Instagram reward? What kind of content does YouTube value? By sticking to one or two platforms, you're able to authentically grow your audience, which in turn helps create your brand. Now, ways to really hone in on these platforms and the way they work is figuring out what keywords these platforms like. It's also by seeing what times a day people frequent these sites. And that being said, think about your content. Where will your content prevail? If you are someone who likes to write, maybe you should tune into a blog. If you are someone who enjoys video content, YouTube is a great platform. Photography, maybe it's a blog and Instagram. Think about your content and the type of audience you are trying to attract, and go to platforms that therefore attract that type of audience. Another thing I do want you to think about before you decide what platforms you are going to stick to is ask yourself what type of content you like to personally consume. It's much easier to want to partake in a platform if you're enjoying your time on it as well. Another great idea in building your personal brand is to educate and niche down. Now, the idea of niching down can be a little bit controversial because even myself, I don't necessarily believe I have a niche. I have multiple different interests, but I do like to stick to maybe 5. So 5 things that make me me. Most of the time it's like fashion, beauty, recipes and health. It's also my cat Lily, and maybe traveling. These are things that I like to showcase on my platforms quite frequently. And therefore, if you go to my Instagram highlights, if you go to my YouTube playlist, you are going to see playlists and highlights related to those separate genres. It doesn't matter what type of content you are creating, but ensuring that your content is providing value, that is what's going to keep the readers or the consumers in tune. What are they reading? What are they taking away from it? What do they feel when they consume your content? In my personal opinion, your content should always leave people feeling inspired. It should always leave people feeling better than they did before they consumed the content. Or it should even spark conversation, curiosity. Some sort of message is so important in order to keep that audience coming back. Now, how do you keep the audience coming back? You do this by storytelling. You can storytell in many ways. You can do this by showing how you solved a problem. You can showcase customer testimonials. You storytell also by explaining how you got on this platform. Who are you? How did you get from someone who wasn't using this type of platform to now someone who produces content on there? Creating a brand mantra or a brand message is crucial in tying in that story. So if you go on my Instagram and also my business cards, my personal mantra is making an impact while making an income. And that's what I like to think of my content and my presence in the online community. I would highly recommend thinking about your core values. What does your brand and your message stand for? And adding that to every platform that you're on. It's also really important to set brand do's and don'ts. I know that especially in today's world, we all need income, right? But understanding that not all brand deals are going to align with the message that you're trying to send, and being able to walk away from things that don't represent the person you are trying to be, the brand that you are trying to present, and the customer you are trying to attract. So me personally, this is something I'm not sure many of you know. In real life, I curse a lot. It's something I'm trying to work on, but online, I don't think you'll find a video of me saying a bad word. In my personal coaching that I do with my, my business partners, sometimes I'll curse on calls now that I feel more comfortable, but for the most part, I try and show up as a professional. And to each their own. Maybe some people, cursing is a part of their brand. Again, remember, everything transfers over, whether it's your day-to-day brand and also your online presence. So try and keep those congruent, because you don't want someone to say, well, in real life she curses all the time, but online you never hear her say anything. I see how that could be a little bit inauthentic. Another thing you won't really see me doing anymore, because girl, I have gone over the party phase, okay? I am past college, and if you watch my college vlogs, the chugging is there, but you won't really see me consuming beverages of alcohol or doing anything inappropriate on my platforms. That doesn't mean I don't do it, it just means I do it without the camera on. Now, I know all platforms are going to have different styles, but I think it's really awesome to pick colors that you enjoy. I don't think every Instagram photo needs to be the same filter, but kind of saying, okay, well, maybe I enjoy the blue tones, let me use blue font, or maybe I like more of neutral, so let me mute down any color in my photos. Kind of having that overall aesthetic so that when people are watching your stories, or maybe it's your intro to your YouTube channel, they know that's your content and it came from your channel. This isn't the end all be all. Aesthetics is not the most important thing, but it is the bow around the present. You have to think that your brand style is an extension of your style. So what is your style? And maybe you don't have an answer yet, that's okay, but now's the time to do some soul searching, figure it out, so that you can start kind of wrapping it all together. Going back to my idea of branding, go and do yourself an online audit. See what photos do not really relate to how you are today and get rid of them, archive them, delete them. There were so many photos that I posted in 2012 on my Instagram of like my terrible nail polish that I painted at home, and I'm like, well, that doesn't really align with how I'm trying to show up now. So I got rid of a lot of that content that in that moment I thought was great. Now looking back, it's not professional, and that's not how I want to be perceived as. So do an online audit of yourself, see what you can get rid of, see what photos you can maybe untag yourself in, because remember, you are a brand. For the most of you, if you are watching, you're probably a business owner and you want to be perceived as the person you are in this moment. And last but not least, be vulnerable and be you, okay? No one can do it like you can do it, okay? So many people are doing the same thing in the world, but we're all different. We all have different value. We all have different voices. So never compare yourself to that of others, and understand that you were given these gifts for a reason, and we were given social media to share them. Use these platforms for good. Get your voice out there, get your message out there, and start building your audience. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and until my next one, I'll see you guys then. Bye. Mwah.